When I think about my childhood, I think about I think about Guffgate Mall. I think about us doing things we shouldn't be doing, like standing on a bridge, throwing glass bottles onto freeways, which was extremely dangerous. But at the time, I didn't know we should do it. I think about during 4th of July or New Year's, getting ideal to take Black Cat firecrackers, tape them to a whole bunch of ketchup packages, tape them on somebody's door, knock on their door and light it with the intention of it blowing up when they open the door. Not thinking about the fact that those black cats could have put those people's eyes out. I think about trashing an abandoned house that we thought nobody lived in, that we used to go to every day, playing with the piano, going in the drawers, running in and out the house like it's ours. It's only to find the owner comes home while we're in the house, running out frantically back home, scared for our life. So basically, when I think about my childhood, I think about, like a lot of us probably think about, adventure. All those things I just named. All those great ideals that worked out or didn't work out. I have 4 brothers, so it's a total of 5 of us. I had friends that I used to go over their house and play 007 GoldenEye every day. And so in many ways, my childhood was like a lot of kids, horsing around, looking for things to do, looking to have fun. And I did a lot of that. I remember we lived in one apartment called Willow Creek. It was on the southeast side of Houston. And every day we would, they had a basketball court that was right in the middle of the apartments and a store in the apartments, which is like, when you're little, you think that's the coolest thing ever. Every day we would go play basketball, go hoop. I remember playing the basketball. I remember going to the YMCA on Southeast Houston. There was, I forgot this dude's name, was an Asian guy. They used to be cool. They used to, he was like kind of Christian / athletic. We would go in there and play basketball. So I spent a lot of time playing sports, given that I have 4 brothers and they all liked basketball. So my childhood was like many other people's childhood, looking for shit to do, essentially. But obviously, when I look back as an adult, I'm able to see, even though I had a good childhood, where there was adventure and just figuring out things to do, there was some lifestyle realities that affected me as I became an adult. Poverty, not necessarily maturing at a rate that probably would have been a benefit to me. I started doing things later, relationships, sex, start doing that post 18, 19. And I think that sometimes that affects you all the way through your life, as far as where you're at things. And, looking back and you realize the vicissitudes of fate, the nature of being alive is none of us really get to truly, choose our story. We don't really get to decide what happens. All we get to do is figure out how we're going to deal with what happens. And so, to be honest, I don't think about my childhood that much. Every once in a while, something that happened will have me thinking about it, or you might run into somebody that'll have you thinking about it. I got a gash right here, right above my head. I remember there's this guy named Steven Solis. I don't know what age we were. I know we were living like in Southeast Houston, somewhere near Broadway Square. And of course, kids, they're bored. He decides we want to see if he can lunge me on a seesaw device we created onto a car parking porch. So there's like a car lot when they have like those 10 porches. And so basically there was a telephone booth right next to the parking port over the cars. And so we created like a seesaw-like device. And Steven Solis, who was bigger and taller and weighed more than me, got on top of the telephone pole And then I was hanging on the other side of this. I was standing on the other side of the seesaw. And the idea was for him to jump onto the seesaw and lunge me up. Just like a kid, it's going to go perfect. So of course he gets on top of the telephone pole, jumps off, lands on the empty side of the seesaw. And like magic, I bend down to jump and time it, but I slightly mistime when he lands on the board and when I start to jump, and I lunge into the sky. Instead of lunging onto the carport, midway into the sky, I lose my balance or lose my center of gravity, and I fall on my hands when my face hit the ground. When my face hit the ground, my entire forehead split open, like at least a nice little deep gash split open. And I immediately said, ah, and ran straight home. And I still have that scar to this day. So I think that this story sounds like probably a story of a young man, a boy, and the type of things that boys like to do. And I think that when you become an adult, you still have that in you. You just have to find different ways to get it out. And I think that it's important that we remember that. I think that it's important that I start to remember that. Hey, I used to play basketball. I used to play sports. That gave me a really strong sense of myself. And I stopped playing it because life got busy. I started worrying about practical bills, start worrying about me, where I'm going to be in 10 years. And if I got a house, if I'm going to be, if I have a family. So worrying about all these practical adult things, and looked up and I was just unhappy all the time, not enjoying my life. And I realized because the things that make me before all these careers and this adult responsibility, there was natural things that made you happy, like jumping off the car parts and splitting your head, or all the random things we done to spend time. I think that it's important that we find those things again in our adulthood, whether it's a hobby or something we really like to do, maybe something we like to study, and engage that, because that's really who we are. We're not these careers, and we're not these titles. We are the same kid that was hanging with his friends, looking for fun, curious, or interesting things to do. So that is something I remember from my childhood. Thanks for listening.